Thank you so much for having me here. I'll just start with a quick introduction. I'm Kuldeep. I'm from Nepal. And I've been in Bangladesh and working in Bangladesh for the past 4 years, nearly. I think June 1st will be my 4th year in BRAC. I came into BRAC as a social innovation fellow from working in Nepal after the Nepalese earthquake. In 2015, I was both a survivor as well as a humanitarian aid worker there. I started my career. I'm right now a co-lead at the Social Innovation Lab. I'm a fellow at the Ethereum Foundation, and I work with Field Ready as an innovation lead. I also have my development, NGO in Nepal called Rural Development Initiative. And I'm currently pursuing, I think got my last module left for my MSc in Sustainable Development from the University of Sussex. The thing that I really want is the image there. It's the image of an orange orchard. Again, this is Mid-Journey. I didn't have a picture of my home, unfortunately. Mid-Journey with the backdrop of Himalayas and the hills. This is the most representative space of where I come from. I've got orange trees. I'm a farmer myself. My mother, she also does farming with me. She's behind here. And we grow rice, oranges, wheat, maize, and that's what connects us to the earth. So just we'll go through a quick discussion points. I'll kind of start with a practitioner's point of view of frontier technologies. And we'll look at primary constraint for decentralization. Look at what Web 2.0 versus Web 3.0. What are the differences between values and principles in both of these systems, and also some use cases of blockchain in the humanitarian space and development space, and also we'll explore the good, bad, and ugly, primarily through what we have the Dungeons and Dragons moral axis. So anyone who's interested, please stick around. I will start with just give an introduction of BRAC, where I am right now, and it's position it in the topic of decentralization. BRAC started about 51 years ago in 1972, on the same year as the Bangladesh got its independence from Pakistan and became Bangladesh from East Pakistan. So over the past 5 decades, BRAC has worked as more decentralized and centralized because of the lack of infrastructure in the country. There was a lot of need and opportunities as well to work in rural part of the country. And in that situation, you cannot work on a system that is centralized because there's no infrastructure there. The decision-making process has to be given to to the actors that are nearest to the population that you're serving. The information, flow wasn't there, like we have right now, and also the infrastructure, and all of that led to an organic creation of a large BRAC that has 50,000 community healthcare workers across the country. That has thousands of village organizations where women come together in groups and get loans through BRAC microfinance, and then where every teacher just gathers a local group of 10 children and starts a school from grade 1, and that teacher becomes that one teacher for them till grade 5, and it's the one teacher, one school approach. And through that, at its height, BRAC had about 60,000 schools. I think at 2010 at its height, and all of that is again controlled decentralized. It's completely decentralized, and that is, I think, a primary foundation of any sort of decentralized structure, decentralized technology and structure, because you have to have a physical space of decentralization. You cannot just loop in, on top, put in a decentralized technology on top of a physical reality that is completely centralized. Both are incompatible with each other. Just to give you another perspective of BRAC, BRAC has, as I said, one of the biggest education programs in South Asia. BRAC is the largest microfinance in South Asia, I think. I'm sure of it. And then BRAC has, as I said, 50,000 community healthcare workers that provide ANC, PNC, postnatal care, these kind of health services to the ground, to the poorest people in the country. And right now, BRAC is also advancing into the space of climate change adaptation, where we are focusing a lot more on locally led adaptation practices. Collectively, BRAC serves about, I think about 100 million population and reaches out indirectly in the country. We're now in 14 different countries, and I think it's one of the voices of the global South that has really tried to change the conversation on development and humanitarian landscape around the world. The other part of this conversation is the Ethereum Foundation. The fellowship, I was the first fellow of the I was in the first cohort of the fellowship at the Ethereum Foundation, where the idea of the foundation was to essentially create a network of people who worked in this space or even not work in this space, but actually really understand the potential of blockchain and the decentralized technologies, and look at how we can build more decentralized systems, fund more of that, build capacity in institutions and amongst people, and improve through iteration and consensus amongst stakeholders to actually scale it. The reality is that the blockchain, in the blockchain space, there's not a lot of currently not a lot of scale outside of the currency angle, and that is an unfortunate reality. I think one of the biggest PR disasters for blockchain has been about its association with the cryptocurrency. So I go into the practitioner's point of view of innovation studies. I feel a little bit out of place as well, amongst all of you academics coming in from a practitioner lens. Most of the time we extract information out of people like you, right? And put it into actionable insights. As I said, extracting information from academics, and we focus on use cases. And the question is like, oh, this all sounds interesting, but how can I use it in my sector? How can I put this on the ground in the villages of Bangladesh, in the refugee camps, in the microfinance groups in the Tanzanian village? How do I use all of the information and evidence that you've gathered, and then bring that into my body of work, into my work where I will then change it into implementation activities, right? And there's one saying in BRAC, just an image here is about, there's a lot of research around 3D printing. And this is a 2015 work where 3D printing was still in its, application, it's still in its silo, but then I was one of the team that went there after the Nepal earthquake response, took a 3D printer in the field, hooked it up to a battery in a car, and then started printing medical items as well as wash items to kind of in the tent spaces, in the migrant camps that were displaced due to the earthquake response. So we look at how kind of research and evidence generation lead to actionable insights on the ground. And one of the things that is really hit me is the motto of the founder of BRAC, who says, "Small is beautiful, scale is necessary." I think that is and I've been following that principle ever since. Let's get into the decentralization space. So the primary constraint for a decentralization is, as I said before, it has to have connection with system of decentralization that exist in real life. We cannot bring decentralization to a centralized atmosphere. For example, bringing, let's say, in a system where you are, in a financial system, let's say, compared to blockchain, which is truly decentralized in its technology and its core and its implementation of work. You look at the analogous technology to blockchain, which is the upcoming one, which is called the central bank digital currencies. They have elements of blockchain technology in their technology and code and writing, but the core infrastructure is still central bank, right? It's still centralized. The reserve bank that controls the flow of money, and it's a centralized structure. It doesn't function decentrally. So the other part of so that's the challenge here. That's the thing that we really try to we really struggle in trying to communicate this to people that if you really want blockchain in your solution needs to actually be decentralized. The other part of it is blockchain is people have used a lot of buzzwords. Blockchain has buzzwords, and what they do is they mention blockchain in everything that they do, and every solution, even if it has blockchain, they make sure that they mention it. But the point is the solution has to work, right? Without mentioning concepts around blockchain and cryptocurrency, if your solution really works for the people, if your users really like it, doesn't matter if it's blockchain or not, right? And these conversations will become a lot less like buzzwordy and will go more into like user journey and customer design and service design and those kind of things. There's also a kind of a philosophical difference between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, which we need to also absorb, meaning that the Web 3.0 development is not a linear development or a logarithmic connection or an evolution from Web 2.0. They exist in completely different planes. The Web 2.0, I'll just give a quick brief, is an aggregator. Right? It's an aggregation, then delivery of information or services or anything through a singular channel. Okay? This is a development we've seen from 2010 till 2020. We've seen information being aggregated, delivered through a search engine. We've seen cars being aggregated, delivered through an app. We've seen houses being aggregated and delivered through an Airbnb app. Right? This method is the method of technology since 2000s. And here the customer is the product, right? Because most of these services are available to you for free and at a very low cost. And we can see that it has a depreciating value over a longer term period, mid to long term period. So you see that a lot of the stock prices of these companies that started from 2000, they ran through the roof during their peak. But now we see that a lot of these technologies are going down. Disney is losing their subscribers. Netflix is losing subscribers. You have Facebook losing its share value. Uber's, Grab got Uber. Grab's probably, and then funnily the major part of the major earning revenue of major revenue stream of these, for example, Uber and Grab are now food delivery, not the actual service they initially started with, right? So now if you look at the Web 3.0, it cannot be treated as an evolution of 2.0, but a clawback by the Web 1.0. Because you can see that I put in this, in Midjourney version 5.1, I put in internet. It has a lot of screens, right? And then I put in decentralized technology, or I think blockchain. It has no screen here. Meaning that it's a completely different change of user interface even. So now, when we talk about building solutions in Web 3.0, an app probably is not the way to access it. Right now, a simpler way, maybe a most recent way to understand this is how we are now interacting with search because of ChatGPT. We really are not going into Google search and going into multiple different websites and looking at all of things. Now it's a conversational manner where we ask something, this is one answer comes out. The user interfaces are changing in this, and the way this technology, there's a technological paradigm shift that is happening. This entire way of accessing and using that technology is also changing. The other thing is about principles and values, like values. Right? What is the Web 2.0 value? Let's just give a quick. Can any of you just give a quick one of the values that you think that the Web 2.0 has? Okay, so let's start with 3.0. So we always talk about in blockchain what's the thing that is a primary value here: trust, accountability, right? But these are actually not the values of Web 2.0.
So maybe Web 2.0 is efficiency?
Is efficiency, right? And these are different sort of principles. Like trust and accountability are a lot more human emotion-related principles. Whereas the Web 2.0 does not have any sort of human-related principles and values. Except for access to information. A lot of the other technologies that have come out, again, maybe this is a personal opinion, except for access to information, a lot of the other technologies have a diminishing return in that Web 2.0 space, because it has a counter, like it is taking something from something else. An Uber model is taking a lot of jobs away from traditional, drivers. The gig economy itself is such an extractive form of economy, and that is powered by 2.0, right? So these non-human principles, efficiency is a non-human principle. Like a lot of people around the world do not care about saving their time. When I'm going in my village as a farmer, like I don't care about, it's that my whole concern is about the growth rate of the rice, right? The general human, need right now in the city life of saving time and saving money it's not part of the human factor. So Web 3.0 has a different set of principles and values. There are more, but trust and accountability just come into mind that it's a lot more connected. That's why, like when we talk about blockchain, there is a bit of an emotional connection with people who really propagate the message of blockchain. They're really a lot more dedicated to it. The interesting aspect is that they do not have any power. The entire world that has power is built upon this 2.0 structure. The technology companies, the news media, everyone with power is focused on 2.0. And Web 3.0 is like renegated to this, Reddit pages and small GitHub threads and those kind of things. Like it's really the people that really do not have the actual power. And in that sense, we are not, a lot of people started looking at blockchain as a space where you use it as a hammer to throw the current system, but really you cannot. And in a lot of ways, people are actually comfortable with Web 2.0. This is another reality that we do not try to, we do not like talk to each other about it. People who try to promote the 3.0, like, Web 2.0 is working just fine for a lot of people. And so where is Web 2.0 not working? Is the space where 3.0 has the space to be, right? Meaning that places where there is market failures. The Web 2.0 again is dominated through a capitalistic structure. Now in that situation where, let's say a rural village in Nepal where no app is going to go and give your service to, because there's a market failure there, right? Because they think that going into the rural village in Bangladesh is not worth it for this app that I want to, that sees a Dhaka population that is, almost 2/3 of the Nepal population. So in places where 2.0 really is not providing any value or providing a counter, negative value, this is where I think the 3.0 can come in and build its own set of values through its own set of morals and principles that is not always acting against or at least not fighting the current system. And I think that allows the 3.0 to create a certain base for which to stand upon. If you do not have a foundation from which to stand upon to fight this bigger, this Hydra monster, you'll never be able to, it's a losing battle. Is there any questions now? It's pretty simple. It's not a lot of, I did not make quite a big presentation. So I go into the blockchain in development and the humanitarian space. Put in a drone image just after the session. A lot of drone conversations, so I wanted to put some of that. So this is where I'm trying to say, one of the white spaces where 3.0 can really work is in the blockchain and development, in the humanitarian and development space. Because as I said, like you have to have a space that welcomes decentralization for blockchain to thrive. And a humanitarian development space is the space that caters to the people who fall through the cracks. Is the space that goes to these rural parts of the country where there is already market failure, where no one wants to go. Humanitarian agencies and development agencies have to go to places where the people are not served. And the 10% of the rest of the percentage of the population are taken care of by the government, by the private sector. The last 10% of the population who really are vulnerable are the ones that are taken care of by the humanitarian and development agencies. And that is a space where nobody else wants to go, right? And as I said, the humanitarian development space addresses challenges in the sector that have seen market failures. We focus on inclusion, access, equity, equality. A lot of these principles really do not fit in again with regards to the 2.0 structure. And also a lot of people here, that we serve have a requirement of a safe environment and to avoid persecution and avoid exploitation. And one of the mandates of a development agency or a humanitarian agency is to reach hard to reach areas and the last mile population where no other services are actually going. So I'll go into a certain sort of use cases, right? One of the major use cases of decentralized technology like blockchain has come out to be identity. But in a different way, meaning that it is very easy to create a user identity. It's an Excel sheet rule, right? You can create hundreds of thousands of unique IDs in an Excel sheet, and that's the first part of it. But there are a lot of different elements to an identity that if we go deeper, come about. And one of the major challenges that we have faced in this current digital world is this stripping ourselves of our ownership of our identity. We have so many credentials. Right now, everyone has a citizenship ID, but our Gmail is one of our biggest credentials. In reality, we access Gmail much more than our IDs, than our citizenship ID. Meaning that there are multiple points of connection that you have with your Gmail on a daily basis, hundreds of thousands of points of interaction and data points. So meaning that the citizenship, your citizenship actually not the best credential, right? That truly represents you. The other challenge is that the best credential that truly represents you is not actually owned by you, right? Your true sets of emotions at like late night at 1 a.m. when you're a little bit drunk, the thing that you post on Twitter, that's not on you. That's not owned by you, right? And you cannot develop. People are developing entire, personas based on each. We can nowadays develop entire personas out of our social media profiles, our email exchanges, where we actually spend a lot of time writing long emails, descriptive, emotional emails to people, trying to tell them to please just get my work done, right? So those kind of emotions really do not factor into your citizenship ID, right? But that emotional side of you actually is not owned by you. And that is the unfortunate reality that we're living in. So data ownership is a big important element of it. And the other part of it is, why do you need an ID system? What do you get out of having a citizenship ID? Can anyone say one thing? Have one thing that you have the power, new sense of power to do once you get a citizenship ID. What is it?
Representation?
Voting?
Voting,
Yeah? But the thing is, you only try it once every 4 years or 5 years. And even many countries, you don't even get that. Right? Sorry?
Travel?
Yeah, travel. But that is, but you can travel without your citizenship ID as well. Like you're not, yeah, you can. So the thing with this is, the ID system, let's say, it is being issued by a higher authority that is at multiple layers above you. And meaning that in order to make this power that has somehow given you this gift of ID system, or gift of being a credential, or gift of credential, in order to make that power accountable, you can only have that one vote in 4 years. Right? So now the challenge is, the thesis is that if you reduce the power, or if you bring that institution that is giving you that credential closer to you, you'll have a much more two-way system of accountability than you'd have typically. Let's say, for example, you have an ID system that is made for a student, right? If you have an ID system that is made in a school, that is given by the school, the student can actually, because by virtue of having a credential of being a member of that school, the parents can affect the school board. If there is lack of quality, the child can complain. right? But a child cannot complain about the lack of public school quality to the Department of Education, right? Who in the Department of Education or the government prime minister's office or the president's office is going to listen to an individual who has a complaint about a lack of good quality service that is being provided? So localizing of accountability and power, if a community is the one that is giving you the credential, you can have multiple credentials, as I say. I'm not saying it's a singular form of credential. The closer the accountability is to the citizen, it brings citizen closer to the identity issuer. It enables identity owners to demand the service, quality, and accountability. So one of the use cases is that I've been working on during my fellowship is to create a unique decentralized ID system for BRAC clients. So BRAC, as I said, has millions of clients that we serve through our microfinance, through our health programs, through our education programs, and our climate change and other programs, skills development, right? But the smallest unit of a congregation of the people on the ground are these things called the VDO. You see on top. So it's a village development organization. It started as a small microfinance lending group of women, of between 20 to 30 women, right? That is the closest unit of accountability that BRAC can provide to these clients, right? And this is a gathering of people that is voluntary. Nobody is forced to be part of it. And there is an exchange of resources because people get money out of it, loans out of it. The other is there's a sense of accountability amongst users. There's a peer-to-peer pressure of paying the loan back, right? And on top of that, what that does is brings a collective voice, even not just as an individual or not just even peer-to-peer, but as a community, as a smallest unit community, as it brings a collective voice that can make other organizations and units of government more accountable. And also gives a platform for the collective voice and decision making to come out. So in that video, so we thought of okay, well, let's see if that is the smallest unit of organization that BRAC has. What if we create a system that gives someone an ID card via the video? So the video issues individual beneficiaries with the digital ID. And if you move from one video to the other, which typically happens, then you just shift the credential, right? And then you get verified again in that village group. Then this is an ongoing battle at BRAC, where I'm the one that is championing a decentralized ID system, and there are a lot of people at BRAC trying to push for centralized ID systems. Okay, and this is a forever battle. So the idea is to give an ID system to each beneficiary or a client, I'd say, give them a digital wallet, give them something as a physical form, a card or an RFID card or a general QR code card. Then what will happen is that, all of these are like traditional modes of digitization. Don't look at demand generation part. This is very simple to do. Who gets what, who provides the service and everything. But the interesting thing is the next slide, where you're trying to create accountability and demand for quality service in the system. Meaning that each client on a monthly basis gets a series of different tokens in that one wallet. So a multi-token wallet is created. And they'll get an agriculture token, they'll get an education token, they'll get a livestock token, they'll get a health token, or a multiple series of tokens. That is being sent by BRAC to the client. Or that is being sent by BRAC to the video, which then disperses the tokens based on the needs and the needs. For example, if a mother is pregnant, then in the local community, they can say, oh, you give her an extra health token, so that she can have additional health consultation if needed be. Right? That means that you are optimizing your services. You're not, typically, if you want to cater to that sort of specialization, the cost increases because the decision-making, the authority line has to go up top. But if you then decentralize it to a community, then the community is issuing token. Each video is issuing the token to the individual person. If someone's husband just died, you give them an extra token of a mental health consultation support, right? So when they request a service, they would typically request the service in the video meeting that, I want to teleconsultation service now. I want someone to come to my house, look at my livestock. That demand is generated here. It is given to these different sort of local service providers that are this group of people who are technologically capable to be able to once provide the service themselves or through or become an intermediary for a consultant or a specialist in Dhaka, right? And through them, a service is delivered. Now, it's not just a one-way delivery of service, and once you deliver the service, no matter what happens, it's fine. Typically, this is what happens in the development sector. Most of the organizations just put a check mark, saying that you go to the house, I deliver this service, done. Right? That's our report for the donor agency, I'm done, right? But here what we're doing is we're creating a system of accountability where if the person likes the service, if the client likes the service, then only the token will transfer from the client to the service provider. Meaning that if the client doesn't like the service and says that I've gotten a power service, he or she can demand quality and make the other person accountable that you didn't provide me the service, so I'm not going to share my token with you. For example, imagine a situation where we give her food rations tokens, she gets the token and then goes to a vegetable shop, who then gets a token. She can even bargain on the prices of the vegetables. This was 10 taka before, why are you charging me 15 taka? I'm not going to give you my token of 10 taka. You would have gotten it, but you're charging me more. That reduces exploitation. So once the token gets transferred, once the client is happy, the token gets transferred from the client to the service provider. And anytime, let's say, a 24 or 48-hour period happens where the LSP is supposed to receive the token but is not receiving a token, it kicks in a client, consumer rights, client service system in the central head office, which we then follow up, right? So this is the kind of power that you get, one, with creating digital ID systems locally, because you can make people more accountable. You can provide customized services to each individuals. And this is just a representative example. This is not the only example of such solution. So there's this other solution which is called cash and commodity transfer. Most of the time, cash and commodity, cash transfer has now, it's gotten so many RCTs now that people see the evidence now that cash transfer actually works better than most developing aids, right? However, there is a big challenge there in cash, meaning that we really don't know if the people actually got the money that the organization said. The other part of it is in a situation where you cannot give cash and you have to give commodities. So in a situation where you cannot give a refugee crisis situation, early response, or let's say a disaster, where the shops are also closed for you to go and buy, right? In that situation, if you're giving rice, or if you're giving grain or something, right at this moment, most of the survivors and beneficiaries are forced to take what they're given, and have to accept their fate, right? In the refugee camp, you have almost a 1.4 million population that is right now getting everything from their undergarments to rice that is being handed out to them. There's a stripping of a sense of dignity that happens when everything that you do, everything that you get, everything that you use in your daily life is given to you. And there's no sense of choice of what you really want. What color you like of the shirt you want to buy? Do you like the color, right? There's a good example is that Rohingya, the refugees in Cox's Bazar camps, in Myanmar, where they were displaced from, they had their own sense of clothing. Especially in events, they were a poor population, but in events they used to dress up. Now they do not have that clothing. So as a big important part of culture is food, and then there is clothing as well, right? Because we are homogenizing trade, we're taking people choice out of the picture in the name of efficiency, which is again this 2.0 word, right? In the name of efficiency, we're stripping people of dignity. Now, there's a term called unconditional cash transfer, unconditional commodity transfer, which has come out ever since, like, I think about 7 years, which has really taken traction, where organizations are going over and beyond in terms of even spending more money on technology to make sure that people get a choice to buy what they want. So one of the example is, this is an image of the World Food Program solution called building blocks. It is the widest used blockchain solution in the world, and on a monthly basis, I think it caters to a 1.4 million population and providing food, basic food items to them, and it works on a principle of unconditional commodity transfer. It doesn't provide cash, but what it does, it gives you coins or tokens to the clients in their refugee ID card, which is called the scope card. The client then goes to is taken then to the food distribution area, and they get to choose what they want to buy, right? They get to go and see, I don't want 2 kgs of rice today, I want 1.5 kg. I want to, my son-in-law is coming, so I want to get a chicken today, right? So she can go to, like a refugee, like she can go and choose what she wants to buy from that place. There's prices written, so she can even look at the prices. She knows that how much she already has, like a list of what she wants to buy. And if she wants something for herself, something for herself, she can even get that, right? So, so again, it brings back that dignity in humanitarian aid. It expands the choice in what could constitute as aid. Users can decide aid pattern, what they want, when they want it for them, right? Bringing that is another value that really doesn't come out in the 2.0 structure, right? This something similar I built in Nepal with support from World Vision when I was at the Nepal Innovation Lab. It was called Sikka, which is exactly the same. Both building blocks started, and Sikka started at the same time. Sikka picked up through World Vision and DRC. It's now being scaled up, slowly in Nepal. It came useful during the COVID response, where I've left the team, but Sikka distributed, I think, about $1 million to different families as cash transfer, aid transfer during the COVID-19 response. It works on a feature phone. It uses the SMS technology, so it uses some of the current systems, but also doesn't need a smartphone. And what it does is it essentially makes sure that the money, whenever an organization is saying that, a lot of organizations during COVID-19 response collected a lot of aid money and say that we'll give the cash directly to the client. And it's very hard for people to track, especially in a situation like, imagine a situation in a village in Nepal where there is no bank. Again, banks are not there because of a market failure situation, right? Banks don't want to go there. Then there is a cooperative, but nobody trusts the cooperative, because the cooperative has a history of just tearing up pieces of ledger that is in the paper and just throwing it away, saying, where's the money, right? So in that situation, we created this Sikka for us to be able to work with the cooperatives. So instead of carrying a bag of cash to the village every time you go, you then work with the cooperative to make sure that the transaction happens, there's transparency in the transaction, so that users get the money instead of walking 2 days to a bank. They get to work 2 hours, and then they get the money into the local cooperative, or they can go to a local vendor that we have worked with, and they directly get the commodity from them. So, but not all is what do you say? Not everything is good, right? And not everything can be classified as either just good or evil, or good or bad, right? How many of you know about the Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah. So this is a typical way for me, in a world where there is so much of nuance, we should not be looking at just things in binary terms, right? So there's a moral axis where it starts with lawful good there, and it becomes a chaotic evil. So any technology, I typically try to classify it in under these terms, because every technology has a set of features that is good, but there are also has features that is bad. That is not as good, I'd say. So there are 5 elements of, let's say, I'll give an example. I'll take an example of a ID system. There are 5 elements of an ID system. 5 features. The first feature is the ability to create and generate identity. So out of this, what would you say is falls under this? The ability to create and generate identity. Because creating identity is also, it's a two-edged sword, double-edged sword. What do you think? I have my own point of view which I've written, but I would like to understand, like, what's your perspective?
Lawful neutral. Yeah.
Lawful neutral. So then that goes into saying that there are good sides of getting an identity. But there are a lot of situations where identities were created to especially identify those people who are different than you. And then that's the first step of persecution, right? The numbers here, that's your first step towards persecution. So I put, in this age, at least, because we cannot survive without our identities on a daily basis, I put identity as a neutral evil in this. The second feature is to verify the credential of the person based on identity. This is what you use the identity for, to verify the credential that you are the person that you say you are. Right? So, in my perspective, I put this as a true neutral, because it's always good to identify who you are. If you're claiming to be someone, then you're already giving up your identity to someone, right? Sharing your identity to someone. That in that situation, me being able to verify is a true neutral. The third feature is to provide access to services linked to the identity or using the identity. This is one of the other features of identity that we get, like, because we have an identity, I think someone said that we get to travel, right? So that is, again, like a neutral good, because we get access to different services. Then the other negative part of identity is that if you think that the person who has identity is not good, then you limit access to services linked to the identity or using the identity. Right? Then you have a sense of moral high ground. You create a set of moral high ground saying that, this person is not that good, so I'm going to, because I know that this person is not that good, I will not let this person get my service or get a specific service because I know that this person is not that good. Right? So that is a sense of lawful evil, but it's also evil. Yeah. I'm just speaking. And then the other part of it is to invoke and remove the identity. Right? Now, that I put in as a chaotic evil. Because, even in prison system, you still have people's identity. Now, if you're removing identity out of people, if you're completely throwing people out of platforms, you're just trying to create chaos there. And and it's not good. Like, complete censorship, it's not good at all. One of the things that I really admire about maybe the Constitution of the United States is the fact that, for good or bad, it has true free speech, which many of the part of the world do not have. And yeah, the last part of it is blockchain the right solution for your innovation or your solution? It depends, right? There are a lot of this is a flowchart which shows that there are a lot of times when you just say no to blockchain. There's only one time where, after completing all of these yeses, I would then suggest for someone to essentially just look at blockchain as a potential option. You may have useful blockchain use case. So this is my last point of view of not getting into the buzz and hype of blockchain, really understanding what are the true morals and principles and values that the technology is really embodying. And then if we are able to understand this on a philosophical level, the technology, then we are able to actually build a better Web 3.0 future. Thank you.